Today we are going to be looking at how to stand out in the marketplace. Today's call is, if you want to stand out in the marketplace, do this one thing. We're going to be sharing one thing that you can do. Have you ever been trying to teach and you wanted to know how to you want to know how you could stand out? You've ever wondered, like, what are my unique talents? What is my gifts? What is my contribution? That maybe you've heard that God has given talents, God has given abilities to different individuals, but you weren't sure where exactly you fit in the whole big picture of things. And maybe there's people out there who are doing things similar to what your ministry is, what your business is, or whatever it is, and you're like, well, how could I be different? That people would actually choose to work with you rather than work with someone else who's doing something similar. This is a question that every entrepreneur needs to be able to ask themselves, and today we're going to be looking at that. My name is Enoch Leffingwell, and here at the Army of Youth, we are passionate about helping young gospel entrepreneurs to financially support themselves while dedicating their talents to Christ's service. If you're interested in the subject, I encourage you to follow us on social media, where you'll find more messages just like this. So, what I'm going to be talking about is having is this one thing you can have. And the way that I learned this is I was over at an event. I was at this event in San Diego. It was called Influencer, and they were explaining basically how the internet works. And they were showing people how there are content creators, there's podcasters, there's book authors, there's course creators, and how each of these people are able to turn their calling into a career. They recognize that they're called to serve certain people. And there are content creators online who are creating content where they're doing things, where they're serving people. They have online businesses, and this event was explaining how you can use your expanding influence to be able to financially support yourself, build a team, and to be able to employ other people in service too. And it was a really interesting event. While I was there was about 500 people there, and it really expanded my beliefs, and it helped me to see, like, each one of these people in the room, they all taught on very specific subjects. And some people were in health arenas, some people were in, they were financial educators, some are teaching about relationships, leadership development. They were talking about, maybe some were marriage counselors, and just all sorts of stuff. There's even like pumpkin farmers who just dedicate their whole service to teaching people how to grow pumpkins. Not squash, not watermelon, just pumpkins. And they've built an entire full-time career on the thing that they're so passionate about. And so after surrounding myself with like hundreds of people that have a similar dream that I did, and I was just like, how are these people doing this? I remember this one time, the first time that I learned about frameworks, I was talking to these people, and this one lady said she was a coach. And she went through this coaching program, and I asked her, what do you find was the most valuable, helpful thing that you learned in that program? And you know what she said? She said the thing that helped her the most was learning about frameworks. And I was like, huh? I've never heard about that. And maybe some of you haven't heard about this too. So as I was learning about these frameworks, she was saying that this was just top-notch. It was unlike anything she's ever heard. She knew how to coach people and help people go through life and make decisions, but she never thought to like create a framework of how she helps people and serves people until she went through this program. I'm like, okay, that planted a seed, and I was trying to make sense of what that looked like, and then I continued, and as I continued, I began to read. It was probably within a month afterwards, I ended up getting this book. It was highly recommended online by several people. It was Expert Secrets by Brunson. And I read this book, and he started breaking down frameworks in a way that I've never seen before. So what I found is that frameworks is what separates the good from the best. Now, what is a framework? Basically, it doesn't matter what you offer or who you serve or how you help people. Everyone, every business, every ministry, I saw it like, it was explained like, let's say you have this like mountain of achievement. Here at the top, there's a result. There is a finish line. There's something that people want to do. And at this top, that's like where usually it starts with you. Here you are at the beginning of your journey, and you want to go over there, and you want to figure out, how can I make this work for me? And then what happens is you study and you learn, and then you figure out that you try this area, this step, and then you figure out there's different steps till finally you're able to get to the top as well. And then once you're at the top, then you've basically like figured out the thing that you were trying to solve. Whether that's like, for me, like I want to know how to work for God for a long time, and that's like my whole life has basically been dedicated to try to understand, how can I work for God? That's what I want to do. I want to help people. And then there's other people that want to know how to do what you've just did. And so this is where things become very different. Where as you have a result, a lot of times we might be physically fit, or maybe you have different transformations. Like you lost weight. Like I lost 50 pounds when I was 12. And then others, you might went from really, really shy to now you're more social and you're more comfortable speaking to people. And a lot of times we don't really think of like, how did that process happen? Can you guys think of something that you have now that is an experience, but before it wasn't always like that? Like there's a place of, at one point, this is where you were and this is where you wanted to be, but now you're actually where what you thought, what was before just a dream or a desire. And a lot of times and sometimes it's learning a new skill. Sometimes it's like becoming a different type of person along that way. And often we don't really think about what was the process, what was the steps that it took us to get there. The steps is what we would call a framework. The framework is a step-by-step process to get a repeatable result. And this is what separates people from the beginners, or the people who are just kind of like trying to survive, versus in business or ministry, or the people who are really thriving. And you'll find, like, once you understand this, all of life will begin to open up. When you get what frameworks are and how they're in every single organization that is doing something like huge, frameworks has made the difference. And so my encouragement to you is to you want to create a framework. You want, at the beginning, you learn frameworks to, like, I would submit to you that any result in life, I truly, firmly, strongly believe, any result in life, there is someone who has the results, and all we have to do is figure out who has the results that we want, and then pay them whatever they charge for being able to share this framework, and then figure out what they do, and as you follow the steps, you'll get a similar result too. That's largely what the internet is made up of. A lot of these content creators, in the content they're sharing, when they share like 6 steps to training your dog, that's a framework. When they say like 5 foods to boost your memory, that's a framework of memory boosting. When there's a list or a step-by-step to get somewhere, that's a result. That's a framework. And those will make a really huge difference when you understand this. I'll give you another example. A framework that we have is your hidden talents. If we could put that on the screen. Now, we teach at the Army of Youth. One of the frameworks we teach is that you have a hidden talents coming from Matthew 25 that God has given to you uniquely so that you can financially support yourself while serving Christ. And that framework is 6 talents and you just remember the word talent. Would someone like to volunteer to read what those talents were? Go ahead, thank you.
So those talents are, the first one is T for thoughts, and the next one is A for acquired money, and then there's L for loving communication, E for expanding influence, N for natural health, and T for time.
Great. Now, does anybody remember the first time that you heard this framework? When you look back? Or what was an early time that you heard the framework? I'd be curious to know, what was your impression when you saw it for your first time? Okay, go ahead. Thanks, Shanicia.
For me, the first time I heard it was when it was taught in the Mind Your Own Business Challenge. Like when we were prepping for that, I had never even thought of these as talents before, and so that wasn't that long ago. Well, when did we do that talent challenge? Was that last month?
2 months ago?
2 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wow.
it's fairly new to me, but it's powerful. I didn't think of any of these as talents before, but it opened my eyes.
Praise the Lord.
All the possibilities, all the talents that I had.
It helped you to unhide that hidden talent and start putting them to use. Amen. We got another hand over here. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it took me a while to recall, but I remember quite some time before we had this framework, you shared similar principles of like the talents that everyone has. And I remember when I was learning that, it was very eye-opening. I was like, whoa, we all have these talents. So it's just nice to see it in a framework, and like, especially since it's like TAL, like spelling out talents.
Yeah.
It's way easier to remember, like, these are the talents that everybody has.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. Denzel, by any chance, do you remember what your impression was when you saw it first? Or an early impression of it?
When I saw it, I didn't know what it was. I think
You have to turn on.
I think when I saw it, I was just like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And so my former perspective of what talents was, I guess I was at a place where I was trying to figure out what are all our talents in the Bible. So when I first saw this framework, I was like, okay, where is this at in the Bible? I want to see it in the Bible. And so when I saw it and I saw what it stood for, I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's interesting. These talents are something that we all possess, so yeah. So my first perspective of learning it was like, wow, that's amazing.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And what's really powerful about these talents is, or any framework, is a framework will allow you to be able to teach without taking notes. And without the use of notes, you can share that, like, if you can share this framework. As long as you know how to spell talent, you know how to teach it. And because it's T for thoughts, A for acquired money, L for loving communication, E for expanding influence. Like, it is so vivid and clear in my mind. And what's really nice about that is this talent framework, or any framework, this one is 6, so it can be taught in 60 seconds. I've taught it in 6 minutes before. I've taught it for 6 hours before. Or I could do a 6-day event teaching the same framework. It's just a repeat and enlarge upon the same concepts. So, and then you just like go into more detail about each one in different sections. So with you being able to have a talent, what differentiates like a business is having these frameworks. What separates you from every other ministry or business is your framework. Your framework is unique to you. You have a specific system. You have a method. You have a solution that you can share with people that nobody else really has. This is what allows you to kind of be set apart from everyone else. And there's a lot of teachers out there. There's a lot of people who are communicating, and they're just sharing a mass of information. It's not organized. It's not like step by step. It's not it's not put together. It's not in bullet lists, or it's not in numbered lists, or it's not in an acronym to make it memorable and sticky, so people forget what you say. How many people want others to forget most of the things that you say? No, not at all. Go ahead, Tina. You want to share something?
Like, I just know the difference between when someone shares a framework, like while they teach, and when someone does not share a framework is really profound, because I know a lot of sermons, you don't really remember what they say because, you know, they're just like sharing this, sharing that. But if it's in a framework like base, you actually remember it.
Yeah, that is so true. So being able to teach in frameworks will make or break whether your audience, the people you're called to serve, remember what you say or not. So I would submit to you that everything you teach would be good to have frameworks for. Like even this concept, this is the framework I borrowed from Russell, and it helps you to visualize. This is where people are, where they want to be, and it's steps to get there. So this is like another thing for every framework solves a problem. Every business solves a problem. Every product is solving a problem. So when you look at it, as you identify what is the one problem that your organization solves for people, then you can see what is your framework, or what framework could you craft to help people to get the result that your organization is solving, is helping people with. And then you want to kind of refine and start working on that framework as you go. And one thing that will help you tremendously for having your framework, your step-by-step process, is having what I like to call community service content. Because there's a saying, like, people who are going to be working with you, they want to know that you can help them. And what is the best way for others to know that you can help them? Go ahead. By actually helping them. Absolutely. The best way for others to know that you can help them is by actually helping them. How do you help them before they ever meet you or talk to you on the phone or in person?
You can share content with them?
You can share content. And then the question is like, what am I going to share? How do I have an endless amount of content? How do I never run out of content? Same with you.
Frameworks.
Frameworks. All your content is just teaching frameworks. And what's amazing is on the community, on the content, there's another framework, and this is called the value ladder. This value ladder is extremely helpful because at the bottom you see that this is the free line. This is the things that here is as it goes up in price, but as it goes up in price, but it also goes up in value. So it's important to note that whatever framework you have is solving a problem. Not every problem pays the same when it's solved. An entrepreneur is one who finds and solves a valuable problem. And so as you go up, your free content is one of the purposes, the goals of content, is to solve a small problem. A what kind of problem? A small problem. Now, you might have a course or something higher that solves a bigger problem, a more complex problem. The more complex the problem is to solve, the more people would be willing to pay you for. The longer that they've been struggling with the problem, the more they'd be willing to pay you for. The more frustrated they are with their problem, the sooner they'd be willing to pay you for. So understand that as the problem goes up in size, so does the price that people are willing to pay you for. Solve a premium problem to receive a premium payment. But the free stuff, what's really cool, is the reason why I have an unlimited amount of content to never run out of ideas, never run out of things to share, is because I can take the concepts and frameworks that I teach to the higher level students and then share them in little sections for free. And I'll show you how this works. So an example is, let's say, I think this book and the story of how it came about is really eye-opening. I bought this book, right? Who has any guess of how much I bought this book for?
$10.
20 bucks, $10. I think it was closer to 10, somewhere around there, maybe 10, 15. It was basically a free book. I just paid for shipping. So it's like he paid for the book, I paid for shipping, and it was super, super cheap. So I bought it. It was like, hey, I want to give you a free gift. So he's doing free content, and on his content, he's like, hey, check out this free book. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll get the free book. Get the book, and then immediately afterwards, he says, hey, by the way, in this book, I cover some, so I'm going to put over here, book. You know, this book is his Expert Secrets framework. He's showing you where you are and where you want to be. Where you want to be here is it says, for converting your online visitors into lifelong customers. This is basically how to, how to create. He says, I believe your business is a calling. You've been called to serve a group of people with your product, services, and offers that you've created. So he's basically teaching you how you can develop a movement of people who are super excited about what you do and how you serve, and who love the solution to their problem, and they are eager to pay you for it. And this is what the book is showing you. So this is a framework. The whole book is a framework. Then, like, the same moment, as soon as I hit order for the book, what does he offer me afterwards? Some sort of course? He offered me an audiobook. So I bought the book for $10, and he sold me the audiobook for, I believe it was $32. And even though it's the exact same content in the book, it's the same framework, it's just packaged in a different way, I was gladly willing to pay the audio because this solves a higher quality problem. Like, I don't really want to sit down and read all this stuff. Like, it is neat, but I'd much rather listen to the book than physically read it. So I paid $32 for the book. And then, for the audiobook. Right after buying the audio, then what does he offer? He offers a course. He sells a course for, what is it? I think it was about $120 or something. It was like $120 for the book, and he calls it story selling. It's a story selling secrets. It's an online course that he shows. And what's really cool is in this book, he has the first section is all talking about creating a movement. The second section is all talking about creating belief, and it's talking about stories and how the stories that you tell is how you shift the beliefs in others, how you can persuade and influence others by sharing your testimony. Revelation 12:11 says, we overcome Satan by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our what? Testimonies. The whole Bible is just a book of testimonies. It's divided into two testimonies, the Old and the New Testament. So he's showing you how you can testify through your experience or other people's experience to shift the beliefs of others. And this book has 4 sections, but section 2 is all about story selling. So you know what he did? In this $200 course, he didn't sell the whole framework of the book. He just sold section 3 in a different format. And that same framework from section 3, but it was in a course. I believe it was like 2 or 3, 4 videos or something. So in that course, he teaches this framework, which is really, really genius. And so you buy that course. It's like, wow, that's really helpful. Then he's got a webinar, and in that webinar, he is teaching you on some training. I don't remember what it was. It was like how to start your business in under $1,000 or something. And it's like, hey, that's kind of cool. It's catchy. And then you get on there. Then what does he do? He sells you another course, which is this is a low ticket course, and this is more of like a higher price course. It was like I'll just say premium course, and he sells that for $1,000. Or no, he sold it for $3,000. He sold $3,000 for the same course, and it was like, wow. But you know what's fascinating about the whole thing? It's the exact same framework. It's the same exact information in the book. It's just going into different detail. And with this, he was selling the website, his software that goes along with it. Go ahead.
So would he just then, like, compared to the book and the free content and, like, the course, would he just make it more practical and tangible for people to do? That makes it more valuable?
Yes, great question. The thing that makes it more valuable is the delivery method. A video is always going to have a higher perception of value than a book or audio. And in the course, he's giving you worksheets that you can practically apply. In the book, he tells you like steps for you to do, but this is basically like do it yourself. It's like this is do it yourself, and then a course is like done with you, and it's like it's step by step, holding your hands through the process. And it's the same framework, teach you how to do that, and then and so it's more valuable because you got worksheets and they're showing you the step by step. Now, you know how he actually put this book together? He put this book together by posting on his podcast. 5-minute podcast episode, 10-minute episode, 20-minute episode, 15-minute episode. And what he's doing for like a year, he's publishing, and he's testing his material. By publishing a little bit at a time, he's seeing what's resonating with the audience. He's crafting and he's modifying and he's fine-tuning the steps, and he's helping to get feedback from people. He's seeing what works really, really well, and then he's doing more of that. And then finally, in that year, he compiles all of his best material and he puts it into a book. And then boom, that's how he created the book. Well, on the flip side, a lot of people, the old way of publishing books is to just sit down and grind and just try to write out an entire book, have no testing of the material. You're not blessing a single soul until you have all the pages of manuscripts done, edited, and you have it all created, and you have no idea if people actually want to hear or how helpful it is. You're just sharing what you think the market wants, and then after you go through all those, who knows, 7 months, 10 months, 3 months, whatever, all that time to put together a book, then you sell it, and you try to get it before people, and then it's like crickets. And then you don't realize that there's some major flaws in the writing of the book. So there's some major statistics. It was like, yeah, it was about a lot of books that get published, they don't get sold. So with this way, you're able to publish in increments, one at a time, and then sell it at the end. And you already know it's helpful. You already know it helps people. But it goes further than this. After his course, as you go through in the community, he has an event. He has an event called Fun Hacking Live. I actually just went there. And at the event, how much does it cost to attend the event? $1,000. It's a $1,000 ticket, but with flights and hotels and everything, it's more like maybe $3,000 event, somewhere around there. But as you go there, now, what do you think he's teaching on stage?
Same thing.
The exact same framework. Literally, he had an entire day. This is a trilogy. He has 3 books. He has the red one on funnels. He has Expert Secrets on the messaging, and then the green one on like traffic and attention. And so it was like that 3-day event is just, day 1 was red with his first book. Day 2 was blue with this Expert Secrets book. Day 3 was green with the attention and traffic and getting people's attention. The exact same framework, taught, packaged in a different way. Now it's in an event. So at the event, what he does is, whoa, and I'm telling you, I'm using this as an example just because like I think the framework's great and I would definitely recommend you check it out. But it's something that you can all learn, and it's not just Russell who does this. This is how the internet works. I want you to see this. The people who are making money online, who have turned their calling into a career, who are serving God at the highest level, and they have profitable online businesses, they have a framework, and they're packaging the framework in a different way. You know what we learned from this? People will pay more money for the same framework if it's packaged in a different way. So what they're getting from this, another thing that they're getting that's more valuable is access. They're paying for access, and they're paying for the formatting and the structuring of the framework. It's more accessible, more detailed, more actionable, more accessible to people. Then the next level he had was, he has a $25,000 group coaching program that people are able to sign up to, and I saw hundreds of people sign up for this offer at the event. I wasn't one of them, but $25,000. People by the hundreds lined up for it. And guess what he's teaching?
Same thing.
The exact same framework in Expert Secrets. He even put it on the screen as he went through the presentation. He's like, this is the expert path. He said, and this was really cool, there was like 4,000 entrepreneurs in this room, and he said the only people that we found, like we have access to thousands and thousands, over 100,000 entrepreneurs, 100,000 people who have online businesses and use our websites to sell to the world. And he said, we found that there are two main paths that every single successful business follows. And you know what those two paths were? Frameworks, that's a good guess. He said it's either the expert path, which definitely has frameworks, or it's the e-commerce path. They either have an e-commerce business that they've scaled to 8-figure, 9 figures, or they have an expert business that they scaled to 8-figure, 9 figures. These are the people who are succeeding the most. You know what I learned from that? What I realized is experts sell information products. E-commerce sell physical products, but they're both product-based businesses. So what we can learn is that the business model you choose dramatically influences the ceiling that you will hit. Products are better than services, and products are infinitely more scalable than services. So if you have a service business, I would encourage you to productize your service by creating an educational package or a way that you can productize whatever the services is, because with service you're trading time for money, and there's going to be a limitation on the time. It's the most limited thing we have. Product takes the same amount of effort to sell 10 books as it does to sell 10,000 books and courses and things of that nature. So that was a side note, but he basically said it's only product-based businesses that are succeeding at the highest levels. And I was like, whoa, noted. Like, I'm going to remember that. But he sells his group coaching, and then at the group coaching, the goal of the group coaching is help them to get to the 2 Comma Club. To basically, he has an award for people who earn $1 million with his software, and he's helped 1,000 people to accomplish that. And only those out of that 1,000 people who got a 2 Comma Club, you have to have a 2 Comma Club in order to apply. And then he has an inner circle. And in the inner circle, you know how much he charges for that one?
A lot of money.
He charges, yes, you got it, $50,000 for the inner circle. And guess what he teaches at the inner circle?
Same thing.
The exact same framework. Like, he actually crafted this book. Like, you see some of the courses that he sells, and he recorded, like, he gets his inner circle, and they meet together like 4 or 5 times a year or something, and they get together, and then in his inner circle, he's actually testing all of his newest materials with them first, one-on-one, like not one-on-one, but in a group setting, in like an inner circle small group with like 50 to 100 people in the room, and he's like practicing his material on them, and from that, he has his manuscripts of his book, and that's his outline. That was literally his outline for his inner circle program. Is this blowing your mind, guys? But wait, there's more. So on top of the inner circle, he then has something that's a Category Kings Council. And in order to join that, that's $150,000 a year. And guess what he's teaching? The same frame. How did you know? How did you know? You guys you're getting good at this. So I just want to show you, like, look how much you can sell the same. And he also has one more, but this is new to me. I don't know how much that is to get in there.
What about the masterminds?
Well, that's the inner circle. Yep. So what they're actually paying for is access. It's in the group coaching that he goes live once a month on Zoom in a group setting. But it's in the inner circle, you see him in person, and you get to interact with him. Category Kings, there's a very small number of people who can join. So as you go up in the value ladder, there's no limit. I want you to see there's no limit to what you can offer with the same framework. Let that sink in. And you know why? You know why that someone hasn't paid you $150,000 yet for your offer?
Why so?
Because you haven't made it yet. And the offer you don't make is the offer they can't take. The only reason why people aren't paying you more, paying a premium for your talent and your service, your ability, is because you haven't yet created an offer to give them the opportunity to do that. But that's another subject another time. Right now I want to focus on the framework. This is how this works. Are there any questions regarding this framework yet?
So it says,
Go ahead, the microphone.
so same framework, right? And at every step of the ladder, right?
Yeah.
What determines, if you have the same framework, what determines the value? Why are people, what are you giving them more at every higher step? With the, since you have the same framework at every step, what are you giving them more of value?
Great question. So what they're paying for is speed. People are paying for faster results because a framework teaches a result, right? A book, it's going to take you a lot longer for you to apply than if you're able, like a course will give you worksheets and help you to do it much faster, more thorough. It's got visual aids and video, so it's easier to go through. But then an event is even more, because then you're just like the social proof of seeing 4,000 people all doing the same thing you are, and you get a network in the events, and you're talking to the different people, the experience you have multiple trainers who have been there, done that. You can interact and you can relate with the different people. So the event is way more valuable than the book. And it's the same framework that, like, all these speakers, they're like often 2 Comma Club Awards winners or people who are his students, and they're teaching different portion or section of his books, and they're just saying, hey, this is what we learned, this is how I applied, this is, like, you could just build an entire business on just one portion of this. He talks about a hook story offer framework, and there's a guy, Steve Larson, who built an 8-figure business just being the offer guy. He's like, hook story offer. No, I'm going to be the offer guy. That's the business I'm going to build. And there's like Brendan Kane has a hook point book. He's like, I'm just the hook guy. I'm teaching you how to stand out in a 3-second world. He writes his book, and he has his value ladder all on hooks. And Steve Larson has his value ladder all on offers. He's like, I'm going deep. I'm going to teach stuff that Russell doesn't teach. My frameworks are all going to be about offer creation. And so, but I digress. So what they're getting is greater access. They're paying for access by the expert, or by the mentor, by the coach. So the group coaching now is the first level that you're actually able to interact with highly trained, highly equipped coaches. It's like a train the trainer program. These people have gone through the method. They're millionaire coaches, and they're teaching the frameworks that Russell has. Russell provides a curriculum, and they're able to teach these, and they are coaching people to get to the 2 Comma Club, or to the $1 million in a funnel land. So that's better quality. It's better access. You can submit questions. You can have one-on-one, not with Russell, but with someone who Russell trained, who works closely with Russell. So you're getting closer and closer. And then Inner Circle, you actually get to see him in person. And can you imagine if someone who's able to help create 1,000 millionaires in his belt, you were able to talk with him about your business, your contribution, how you're serving people, and you're like, hey, this is a problem that I'm having. Would you rather read his book to solve the answer, or would you rather talk to him in person?
Talk to him in person.
And if he's helped you at every stage and every phase to help you to earn $1 million, do you think you'd be more willing to pay him $50,000 to talk to him in person?
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? I was listening to one testimony. This lady, I forgot her name, Emily Hodgson, I think. really neat lady talks about vulnerability. She was over here. She made $1 million just on like a $37 ebook, something crazy. She said that she applied she read this book, she applied a few things, created a framework for helping women who who just got pregnant, can't hold their bladder, and helped them to figure that out. And just an ebook on that, sold the $37 ebook and sold $1 million worth of like a low price little thing like that. So when she made $1 million, she's going like, how can I get into this inner circle? She's like, look, I know this is a good investment. I've never spent this much, but if just a few things in your book help me to earn $1 million, I can imagine what joining your inner circle would be able to help me in the people I'm called to serve. Does that make sense? Isn't this like making a lot of sense? And then the people I noticed in the Category King Council, a lot of the people here were in the inner circle 2 years ago. You got a question? Go ahead and let's grab the microphone.
So it's just that like the way they can pay that much is because it's been so transformational in their life that they've like made so much money.
Yeah.
So that's how they can go so high up in offer. Like, so how about if you're not really teaching how to make money, but you're like teaching something else? Can you like, is it still that you can go like that high in
Great question.
value?
I would say yes, because there is another lady who is teaching, I think Stacy Martino, and she teaches people, she's like a marriage counselor. She helps people to not get into divorce. Oh, that's in a relationship world. So what kind of, like, how expensive is it to people who are about to get divorced? Up to 50% of everything you own, right? The emotional strain on the children, the tearing apart of the health, like everything. And she shows people how to recover their marriage, even if there's just one person who wants to recover it. One person alone. She has like 98% success rate with her students. So if she's able to help teach concepts that can help transform marriages, and she has programs, I think her like lowest ticket, I don't know, it was like 1,000 or 4,000 or something. And then as people join for 5,000, then she has like a 10,000. And when people join 10,000, I'm making these up now, but they're higher price, and she has ascending like variations, and they're annual. She talks about, she doesn't call it a value ladder, she calls it an ascension ladder. And as people ascend to pay you more, that's in the relationship space. And I talked to a guy, he's a high ticket coach, he teaches you how to sell high ticket stuff, but he was explaining to me that there's this lady who is in the health space who came to him, and she's basically a plant-based cook. She teaches people how to cook healthy and how to get closer to God. And she does, she coaches people on health. She's a cook. She loves cooking. She loves eating. And like Martha Stewart's like a billionaire or something. She makes a lot of money, and she teaches home and health and cooking stuff. That's what she does. So she found a way to monetize that. She had frameworks, and she created an audience and add value. But this high-ticket coach is working with this lady who's a cook and showed her how to find a very valuable problem in the health space. And so no longer is she like a vegan cook. She's like some sort of like special, unique, I forgot the word. It was like a specialized like spiritual health coach or something. But now she sells, I think it's a $10,000 offer that people join her program, and she just like teaches them how to cook and helps coach them through their diet transformation to be able to get rid of like their physical struggles that they do. Does that make sense? So in all three core desires, health, wealth, and relationships, this value ladder is being followed successfully. And I would submit to you, if you don't have a value ladder, you really don't have a business. You have a product. And there is a difference. And a value ladder allows you to serve people at every phase and stage of their journey. I would submit to you that the value ladder is really your same dream the person who's a dream to work with is the same person at different stages of your journey. So you're able to help the poor people in the free and cheap land with the books and stuff, and you help them, and then the people who are able to afford it, you have higher price things. And the reason why they aren't paying you higher prices is because you don't have an offer for them to take. And but Jesus said, go to the higher classes first, let the wealthy to be able to fund your ministry to the to the poor, And as you're reaching the rich, they're able to use their resources to be able to equip you and help you go further faster as you're serving people at the lower ends of the scale. A lot of people, and I'd say this is a mistake, a lot of people start in the free or cheap land, and because they have limiting beliefs about finances, and they're like, oh no, I can't sell something. I'm not selling people how to make money, or I'm not selling wealth, basically. I have to sell something for like $30, $40, or whatever, and then it's going to be really hard to reach a 2 Comma Club on like a $30 item. You're going to have to sell a lot at $30 price point. So it's easier to start more premium and then work your way backwards. Go ahead.
I was going to say that this framework right here is so powerful because it works as a map, in a sense of, and if you have it, if you have received it, it's sort of like you're able to use this framework to kind of like set the dream for your business and the steps in which you want to take to how far your business wants to excel or to go. And also that very same framework, as you use it for your business, it helps you be able to serve other people with the very same steps.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that. It is extremely helpful to people. Are you guys like, is this making sense to you guys? This is like, you're learning some new things, right? Yeah, this is, I just want to encourage people that another way to look at how your frameworks is, what you basically are, is you are a bridge builder. It doesn't matter what your business is, it doesn't matter what your ministry is, you're a bridge builder. Here is where the people are, your dream who, this is where they want to be. This is where they want to be, and there's a gap. There's a gap between where they are and where they want to be. And then you've gone through all this mess and the struggle, this downfall, this discouragement, this low end, and you figured out some ways, and then climb, till you finally got that result. Maybe it's transformation of your health, maybe it's transformation of your finances, your business, maybe it's transformation of your relationship, or finding the love of your life, or whatever it is, or leadership. Like, you received a transformation, and other people want to know how you did what they did. There's something valuable you already have. This was your mess that is now become your message when you figure out the framework. What your framework is essentially you're building a bridge between where they are and where they want to be. Your framework is this bridge that's showing you step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are the steps necessary to get from where they are to where they want to be. You're bridge builders. You are bridge builders. We build bridges to help people to get to where they want to go further, faster, cheaper, and with less effort, less energy, because they have your mentorship. Proverbs says, in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. So having a mentor, a counselor who's been where you want to go is able to help you. Do you think someone who's been where you want to go is able to help you avoid the pitfalls and to like save you some time or compress time? Absolutely. And so they create a framework to help you to do that. And what's really liberating and encouraging is that you don't actually have to be the results expert to get started. You don't have to like have the results before you start sharing with people. What you can do is you can take what Russell calls as a reporter approach, where you are basically telling the people, the key is if you're just getting started, you don't have the result that you want to teach people about, then don't claim that you're at the top. Don't claim that like this is where people do all this crazy stuff. They live as though like a lie to try to get people's perception of them to be higher or whatever. Don't do that. Be honest. People would rather follow a leader that is real than a leader that's always right. And And so you say, hey guys, this is where I'm going to go. This is the direction I'm going. I'm not there yet, right? I haven't arrived, but follow me on my journey as I document the process of figuring this out. And let me ask you, if you wanted to do something, like for instance, you want to work for God, and you want to follow him, and then there's someone who's in the same place you are, and they're just making noise, and they're sharing, and they're like, look, this is the destination, this is the future, this is the place where we're going, this is the direction that I want to go. Do you want to go there too? Follow me on this journey. How interesting would it be to see some of these ministries that made such an impact on your life, to see them at their early stages, documenting the process, the struggles and strengths and the things from where you are to where they want to go. And as they're going in the journey, people will want to follow with the ups and the downs and the failures and the discoveries and the insights and the things that you're learning as you're learning it, and who you're going and where you're going. There's value in that people would be willing to follow you on that journey. So as you're doing that, what you want to do is find people who have the results that you want, pay them whatever they charge, or a lot of people who are I've already got the result. They have a framework. Anyone who's read, got a book, this is really fascinating. I learned this. People who wrote a book, they love to get on other people's podcasts and shows to talk about the book. So you can create a podcast or a show, a YouTube channel, where you're interviewing other people who have the result that you want on a different subject. So in our course, where we have a Calling to Career Academy, and we teach people how to turn their calling into a career, we have a section where we want to help people to start a family business, a successful family business, that they could unite their people together. I believe that part of the last message of mercy, to go to the world, is a family restoration message. And I believe that God has given a family business. The first family God created, He gave to man his own business, and that was the Garden of Eden. And they were to be employed with that. It was a family business. So we work as a family together. I've done some family business, but not at the capacity of what I would like to show people in that regard. So what I'm doing is I'm interviewing other 7-figure, 8-figure entrepreneurs who have founded family businesses, who have raised their children on biblical principles, and their business has been a vehicle to totally unite and preserve the unity of their family. And so by interviewing those people, documenting that process, and then capturing it and then providing it in our Calling to Career Academy, we're able to effectively show people that case. Now I might not be teaching you how to have an 8-figure business, but what if I told you I've interviewed 10 people who have a 7-8-figure business, and they've started with a family to bring everybody together? Would you be interested in something like that?
Yeah.
As a reporter, absolutely. As a reporter, you're able to add value. So there is value in synthesizing. There's value in interviewing. And the people who wrote a book are actually extremely easy to get on your podcast to be interviewed. And that's what I've been finding. They want to talk about what they've done, and a lot of times they don't get the interviews they'd like to. So as you interview them, you'll be surprised by how many people would be willing to talk with you. Know that if you don't have the results, if you have the results, trace back your steps, see what was the framework, the steps, and create a framework and test it out in your community service content, the free stuff. And if you don't have the results, find people who do, pay them for what they had, or interview them and be the reporter. Those two things will help you. Then as you report, this is what you do. You can write it down, it's okay. You look for patterns that take place with every interview and successful person you've talked to. You'll find that there are consistent patterns that each person does, and they all talk about the same thing, but they word it a little differently. There's a system, there's a principle of success, and as you follow those similarities, then you'll be able to identify that, and it makes a big difference. So then you can craft your own. You start wording your own and crafting your own framework based on the patterns that you've pulled from all these different sources, and you've synthesized them, you've filtered them through the scriptures. You're able to have your own system that is unlike anything else. Is this making sense, friends?
Yes.
Then you have a framework. When you have your framework, you've got a business. You've got something that you can share that can solve a problem consistently. Are there any questions? There's another story I remember listening to. It was actually the influencer, I guess, summit. This was in person, but they did one in 2020 that was live online. And as I went there, one of the speakers, he's interviewed billionaires, 9-figure entrepreneurs, and on his podcast, and he's got millions and millions of views on YouTube and podcasts, one of the biggest podcasters. And he was even saying, he's like, you know what, just learn from my mistake. I've done the reporter thing, and as he reported people, like, he built a 7-figure business just by reporting on and interviewing other people who have results that are of interest to his audience. And he's like, but the one thing I didn't do is I didn't create a framework. He's like, I see people who created frameworks from the beginning. I didn't do that. It's only recently that I've been starting to create frameworks, and I regret it. So if there's one piece of advice I can give you, is start building your framework now, at the beginning. Then you have what he called IP, intellectual property. You have a proprietary process, meaning a step-by-step process that is proprietary. It's unique to you, that sets you apart from everybody else. And this is the thing that will help you so tremendously, separates the good from the great. So it's possible for you to succeed without one, but those who do, and then they learn about it, they really regret it. So by God's grace, you're learning. I don't believe there's a coincidence you're learning this today. Question or comment?
How would you make a framework if you said you like take the reporter view when you're not there yet? How would you like create the framework then?
That's a great question. Partly, like what I was sharing is, I'll say for like time management. In time management, that's something that I've studied the scriptures, I've studied the Bible, studied about what God says about the talent of time. I could do like a 5-day event on time management. I love the subject, but in the things that you study, you see that there are people who are experts. They have a whole framework on time, productivity, and doing that. But you notice that there are similar concepts that each person teaches. One guy, it was a cool TED Talk called the focus funnel, or no, it's like how to multiply your time. Hear that? I'm like, ooh, how I want to multiply time. He teaches a focus funnel. In the focus funnel, he teaches people to eliminate, remove things, to automate, that's basically systemize things, to delegate, so give others opportunity, and then concentrate, and then procrastinate on purpose, and then to concentrate. So he has these core concepts. I'm like, that's cool. That's one of the best I've seen. A lot of people's trainings that you'll interview, or you'll watch videos, or you listen to courses, or you'll go through whatever, some people say do one thing at a time until it's finished. Other people say time blocking. Other people say focus. Focus. There's a book called The One Thing that is by Gary Keller, I think. That's pretty good. And they have these different words, but all of them are the same words. They mean the same thing as concentrate, right? And so you notice that everybody who talks about time or productivity, they talk about this principle of focus. So you can call it whatever you want. Go to a thesaurus, word hippo. I like wordhippo.com. Cameron says that thesaurus is my favorite dinosaur. And so you get to see all these synonyms, and you just look up concentrate, read what other words you can choose. Oh, okay, read, and then you could and then you could just craft your own that's unique to you. In these frameworks, one thing that's really, really cool, and you can get this, is how do you know, even if you're just getting started, how do you know if your framework works? That you could be certain that you have a successful framework as you're getting started.
Someone else teaches it?
No?
Results.
The results? There's actually, like, someone else teaches the results. I think those are great answers. ultimately, the best evidence that you have a successful framework is when you can teach others to a point where they're getting the results that is being promised by your framework. So you having one is great. That's the first step. Like if you're a reporter, get there as fast as you can. You having becoming a results expert is wonderful position. But if you're the only one who has the results, then people down here are like, oh yeah, Enoch can do that because that's Enoch, but I'm not Enoch, and I can't do that. Russell can do that because that's him, but I'm not Russell. So they're like, it works for him, but I don't know if it'll work for me. I'm different. So that's what people think. But what you do is you teach your framework and you test it out with the free content, with some of these things, and you're testing on people and you're helping them to get to the top. And then once you have more and more people of your students who you've trained at the top, then you can be like, look, this student had this, like for instance, like Victoria was afraid of selling, but she started selling, and then like now she has her own bakery, she's a gospel entrepreneur, and people are like, oh, if she could do it, then maybe I can too. Or you start like listing off, this person was a mother of 5. I'm not a mother of 5, but this person is, and she's getting these results. Look how, and then they relate to different people of your students, and that is your credentials. In this world, your credentials are the testimonies, the case studies, the results of your student. Nobody can argue. They might be like, they're not going to ask you like, what school did you graduate from, or where did you go to college? I mean, there's a lot of billionaires who never graduated from college, and they get invited at colleges to give graduation speeches. It's just, but why? Because of results, their personal results and the results of their students, in just health, wealth, relationships, whatever it is that you're helping people with in your ministry, your evangelistic business. So that's one thing. But another way, let's say you're getting started, another way that you can know is if other people have gotten results with the same frameworks that you've created, you know that they could be successful. And let me backtrack. There is a concept that is super helpful, is you have to understand how innovation works. Proverbs 8:12. Would someone be able to read this for us? Proverbs 8:12. Peter Drucker, he's like a modern like father of management and business. He's a business teacher, and he was quoted by saying, all business comes down to only 2 functions. Primarily, business is marketing and innovation. So when you're talking about ministry, evangelism, business, like innovation is so key. But where does innovation come from? Or the ability to invent new ways and new methods. Go ahead, Shanicia. Proverbs 8:12.
Proverbs 8:12 says, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions.
So wisdom finds out knowledge of witty inventions. Who is wisdom? Christ. How do we know that?
1 Corinthians 2.
Yeah, 1 Corinthians 2 says Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. So Christ is wisdom. So what Jesus is actually saying is that I, Christ, find out the knowledge of witty inventions. So every honest innovation or invention in business finds its origin in Jesus Christ. It is the Spirit of Christ that inspires men with inventive faculties. God created man in His image, and God is creative. God is inventive. So He's given man inventive faculties, and it's His Spirit that gives us new and improved methods, new ways, new frameworks. To innovation, it comes from Christ. I want you to see that. And all business, all evangelism is innovation and marketing. It's an expression of our God-given creativity. So I say that because how does innovation happen? Innovation happens where you have you take something that is already successful, and then you, what I like to call is remix. You can use the remix strategy to start developing strategy. So you can use a remix strategy to start developing your own frameworks as you're reporting and interviewing people. And some of that reporting, And what that looks like is like every great artist, they actually don't, there's no such thing as new. Ecclesiastes 1:9, what does that say? Who would like to read Ecclesiastes 1:9?
The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun.
Amen. No new thing under the sun. So original is just a myth. There's nothing truly original. Like 100% original, never before done. It doesn't exist. Every fashion that's ever existed has existed in the past. Every diet that's ever existed in the past. The business models and business principles that I'm sharing with you are eternal principles that God created, and these concepts, even the value ladder is something that Christ himself had, and you see that these principles are like every business principle that I teach, I either learn from the Bible or I've filtered through the scriptures, and if it's not found in the scriptures, I don't teach it, I don't share it. And if that bothers you, then that's okay. Then I'm probably not your teacher. But but what we see here is the same thing with Ecclesiastes 1:9. There's no new framework under the sun. Every framework that works, it has always worked, it always will work, and it's never not worked. That's what a framework is. And when you understand that, then you realize these people learned it from somewhere else. They just crafted and worded it a little different. Every successful artist, even music, they find inspiration from other musicians. Art, like painters, find their inspiration from other painters. Graphic designers, like how many of you who've maybe graphic, when you're trying to build something, you go and look on some graphic walls and try to get some inspiration, or start with a template or see some similar example. There's usually something in your mind that has inspired, almost every masterpiece was really a remix of another masterpiece. It added its own unique twist. Go ahead.
That's why we look for principles.
That's why we look for principles. Principles are transferable. They're what?
Transferable.
They're transferable. So, with the remix strategy, you find a framework that is already successful. Study the best frameworks and educators who are teaching with frameworks. Study the best on the specific result. Choose a result that you want to learn either for yourself or for others, and study everything that you can. Read books, teach, share, curate, synthesize, teach to others, and then just study what you've learned about that result, and you'll find patterns. Look for patterns amongst all those answers, and the ones who have the best frameworks are the ones who've spent decades of their life just solving one problem. And in that one problem, they've studied all the dead people who've had frameworks. They study all the best, latest research, and this is what I call the science of these subjects. They're scientists, and they're studying all the people who are alive teaching these things, and then they've all been able to synthesize and distill all of the best concepts into just the one, the principles that work, and they've created a master framework. And they're this master framework that is of a higher quality than a lot of the people that are just getting started. But as you go and you study the masters on these subjects, it's going to be better quality than someone who's just getting started. So I like how Proverbs 22:28 describes it. If we could read Proverbs 22:29. Could someone volunteer to read Proverbs 22:29? Thank you.
Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men.
Great, thank you. So, seest thou a man is diligent in his business. Now, what is business? Every business is solving a what? A problem. And every framework is solving a problem. So you see a man that's diligent in solving a problem, or getting a specific result. Every product, every business, every framework, it's all about getting a result. I believe God's people wants us to be extremely diligent in our business and solving and doing what we do, so that we can stand before kings. And we see Daniel was diligent in his business, was he not? Did Daniel stand before kings? Yes, he did. And he was a counselor of kings. And what this does is, what's powerful is when you get to carve out in one of another training that we did about 6 mistakes that people make in choosing their life calling, we talked about choosing a category. You can carve out a category, a subject that is not really being talked about in the marketplace, in ministry, in the cause of God, and where you're fitting, and your ministry or business is solving a problem that doesn't really exist, and then you go searching everything that you can on that subject. And as you search everything you can on that subject, then you're creating a framework. You could become the category king of that subject. And if you're the category king, if you're the number one best at that area, then you're the go-to person. You're the person that people want to go to find and solve that problem, especially those who are higher classes. If people have means, or people have abundance or wealth or finance or influence or knowledge, do you think they want to go to someone who is not diligent, or is halfway in, halfway out? They're not fully sold on this whole business idea that they have, and they're just dabbling and just doing a whole bunch of things? Or do they want to go to the very best? Very best. So the way you can be the best and stand out from the rest is by choosing a category, finding a problem that is not being solved elsewhere, studying everything that you can on how to solve that problem, craft your framework, and then you have a framework that most of the people in the marketplace, they don't know what I just shared with you. They're not creating frameworks like you are. And as you have a framework that's consistent, then they're willing to go to you, and they want to go to you. And as you solve their problems in these lower branches, they're more interested in working with you closer. And you could remix the frameworks and pattern the processes of other people that have worked well, so you know it works. And as you're teaching, if you're just getting started, they don't even necessarily have to be your students. You can tell others how other people have used the same process that you are, and it's worked for them. And you don't claim that they're your student. You're just like, hey, this isn't my student, but they followed the same thing and it worked. Like, for instance, King Solomon. Like, I teach at our high level to our students at some of our higher levels about how to model their business after the business model of King Solomon. And people, and so in teaching about the business model of King Solomon, he was the wisest and wealthiest man that ever lived. And by learning about the wisest, wealthiest man and the business principles of his business, do you think that might teach you a thing or two about how you can be able to have a more successful business? Yes. Absolutely. So by speaking about Solomon's results and the results that he's given others, this could help. It like helps validate and share even more that I have confidence in the frameworks that we teach because they're from the Bible. I know that our frameworks work because God's Word teaches it. Is this making sense? So this is how you could this is how you can create a framework that will really transform and be transformational in the way that you serve people. So we're going to be wrapping up here, and I'll just give one other concept. Would you guys like to know how you could create a framework based on biblical principles? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. One example is this one's pretty simple. If you go to Matthew 7, verse 7, Matthew 7:7 is it's a framework that Jesus taught and he used. And it's very interesting. You want to look for tricolons, or these 3 steps, like stop, drop, and roll, or lights, camera, action, ready, set, go, first, second, third angels, or whatever these things are. And when you hear them in Scripture, you're like, whoa, there's a framework there. Train your brain to think in frameworks. Matthew 7:7, can I get a volunteer to read this?
Matthew 7 verse 7 says, "Ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you."
Great. So Jesus is showing you 3 steps to getting what you want. And really, when you look at prayer, prayer is a desire, wanting is a desire. And so in this prayer process of you have a desire and how to get from where you are to where you want to be, there's 3 steps, not 7, not 70, just 3. The 3 steps, how many would like to know what the 3 steps that Jesus teaches are? Ask. And then you notice that it spells an acronym. First step is ask, second step is seek, and then the last step is knock. And it's ask, seek, knock. So it just so happens to spell ask. So what you can do is you can say this. I'm going to teach you. You just add the word method at the end of it, and you're good to go. This is the ask method for asking God for what you want. Ask, seek, knock, and there you have a 3-step process that you can help people to understand how to pray, how to set goals, how to cooperate with God in answering your prayers, and you can show them. You can go into repeat and enlarge. This you can teach in 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days. Did you know that you could teach this for 3 days? You could be talking about these topics. This is how frameworks are. You just repeat and enlarge and you fill in the gaps. And it's straight from the Scriptures. We teach a principle, we teach a framework that we call God's Plan. And God's Plan is an acronym, and it's God's plan for a financial transformation. It's in 2 Kings chapter 4. We're not going to go over it now, but it's 8 steps to God's divine prescription for poverty. And it shows a woman who is struggling with debt, death, and doubt, and she needs a transformation. And as she is struggling, God sends her, she goes to the man of God. The man of God lays down 8-step plan to totally transform her finances for her and her family and her children, and God redeems her. And just based on this story, we show people how to have a financial transformation through these 8 steps. And we know it works because it's the biblical, it is God's plan. It's literally straight from the Scriptures, just like all of our frameworks. And as they go through, then people learn, they grow, and it's really life transforming. So in this process, what I wanted you to see is that you want to basically have a system for communicating, have a framework for your method to find the pattern, see the result that you're solving, and then make a framework that you can use again and again and again, and then people are willing to pay more money for the same framework as you move forward, and you'll see this to be the case. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. I pray that this is a blessing for you. If you have questions, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you want to know, if you want some more training on similar subjects like this, what I've done is I put together a special gift for you. This is the Bible Financial Secrets. In this course, I've put together what are the biblical laws that God has regarding our finances. There are reasons that cause finances that God has, and there's reasons that cause poverty. There's warnings that King Solomon warns against that leads to poverty. And if you want to better understand God's plan for your financial transformation, then go to the website thearmyofyouth.com/financial, and you can sign up today. That's again thearmyofyouth.com/financial, and you can get access to that today. And I look forward to seeing you in the training. Thank you so much for this time, And and remember, friends, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called.